Hey, it's Nick. Welcome to the Ricochet Moment. In each episode, I explore the story of a legacy brand and spotlight one bold decision that changed everything. A single moment where a leader's choice shifted the entire direction of the business upward. Sometimes subtly, sometimes explosively. Today's story is about pixels and paddles, about a generation learning how to play in a brand new way. Let's go back to 1976. A man made a decision that would change how we play, how we spend our time, and how entire industries think about attention and control. He sold his company. The man was Nolan Bushnell. The company? Atari. And the idea? To bring video games into people's homes. Not just one game, not just Pong, a whole system. A universe of possibility. But before we get too far ahead, let's rewind. Before the consoles, there were arcades. Before the arcades, there was Pong. And before Pong, there was Bushnell, a scrappy engineer with a knack for circuitry and a restless imagination. He saw more than blinking lights. He saw the future. And he believed the future, well, it looked like fun. Atari started as a small, tight-knit team, engineering-minded, creatively restless, and riding the wave of arcade success. Pong was everywhere. Bars, bowling alleys, rec rooms. But what they were dreaming up next wasn't just a new title. It was a whole new model. The VCS, the Video Computer System, wasn't a game. It was a platform. A Trojan horse for infinite play. You didn't just buy Pong anymore. You bought the machine that could become anything. Space Invaders, Asteroids, Pac-Man. A device that held potential, not just content. Today we take that idea for granted. Back then, it was radical. No one was thinking that far ahead, except Bushnell and his team. But here's the twist. They didn't have the money to pull it off. Manufacturing, marketing, distribution. They had vision, but vision doesn't pay for circuit boards. So Bushnell made a call that would ricochet across pop culture, tech, and business. He sold Atari to Warner Communications for $28 million. Now, why Warner? Because they had cash. Because they had distribution power. Because they had boardrooms full of executives willing to gamble on the strange and the new. And because Bushnell, despite being a founder, an innovator, a true believer, was willing to let go of control in service of scale. Let's pause on that. Because this is the first big idea in today's Ricochet. Sometimes the only way to go forward is to let go altogether. You've got a great idea. You're protective of it. That's natural. But if you insist on owning every piece, if you choke the idea with control, you might stop it from becoming what it could be. Bushnell gave up his company so the idea could live. That's not failure. That's vision. The Atari 2600 launched in 1977. And like most bold ideas, it didn't explode out of the gate. Sales were modest. The tech was way ahead of its time, but it started to grow. Word spread. A few key titles hit the shelves, and suddenly, it hit. By 1982, Atari wasn't just successful. It was the fastest growing company in US history. Think about that. Faster than any bank, any airline, any car company. Faster than Apple. Faster than Amazon, well, at least at that point. Atari had become the name in gaming. Kids were unwrapping 2600s on Christmas morning. Parents were sneaking in a few rounds of Breakout after the kids went to bed. And here's why it worked. It wasn't just about joysticks or sprites. It was about agency, about being in the story instead of just watching it unfold. Atari took the arcade, a place you had to go to, and shrunk it into your living room. It changed the way we interact with entertainment. Now, here's where we zoom out. Because buried in this story is a lesson that applies to every industry. Build something people can build on. The 2600 wasn't just a console, it was a platform. The cartridge slot? That was a promise. You don't know what's next, but it's coming. Too many companies today still build locked boxes, one-use products, one-time campaigns. They solve a problem once and walk away. But platforms? Platforms evolve. They invite others in. They become bigger than the founder. How could you apply that to what you're doing? What if the thing you're building became something others could grow with, rather than just admire from a distance? Of course, no story of success is without friction. As Atari soared, the culture shifted. Bushnell was a freewheeling innovator. Warner was corporate, structured, ROI-driven. Bushnell wanted to keep inventing. Warner wanted to start optimizing. In 1978, just a couple years after the sale, Bushnell was out. Let that settle in. The man who built it all was pushed out of the company that he founded. And here comes another lesson, the second ricochet. Know when your values no longer match your environment. We like to tell ourselves that grit is everything, that we can power through. But grit in the wrong room? It's just friction. If the people around you don't share your vision, don't believe in your version of the future, it's okay to walk away. It's not quitting, it's recalibrating. Bushnell left, but his influence never did. The 2600 laid the groundwork for modern gaming. Nintendo, Sony, Xbox, they all owe a debt to what Atari started. Even our phones, packed with downloadable apps, instant content swaps, continuous updates, trace back to the cartridge. That simple idea. Buy the machine once, swap the experience forever. That's more than innovation. That's a blueprint for modern digital life. But none of it happens if Bushnell doesn't place a bet. Not just on the product, but on people, on Warner, on the engineers, on the marketers, on the next generation who would carry the torch forward. So here's the ricochet. Nolan Bushnell didn't just invent a console. He redefined what it means to scale an idea. If you're holding something meaningful right now, an idea, a brand, a service, a story, ask yourself, what would it take to bring this to more people? Who would I need to trust? What might I have to let go of? And lastly, am I brave enough to not be the center of it? Because sometimes the most powerful move you can make is the one that lets others play. Thanks for joining me today. Until next time, and your Ricochet Moment.